The wage study.
It's just a presentation.
Welcome to the G. Thank you. Please stand by. If you are the chairperson, press star and you will now be placed into conference. There are 2 participants in the conference.
Hi, welcome. Councilmember Casagrande, are you on the phone? Seems to take a minute. Councilmember Casagrande, are you on the phone?
I sure am, thank you.
Great, thank you. So, as the clerk's getting the presentation loaded and connecting those folks, I will say, you know, during COVID, we really are trying to get as much public involvement as possible. We're going to go ahead and do the presentation first, and then I'm going to break, and there are some folks that have asked to be called and have some public comments. And then I'll also check in with council after that, and that will include you, Councilmember Casagrande, but also if you have a question, when we go to questions, if I'm forgetting you, be sure to speak up. And then also folks in the room, flag me down if I'm not cluing into that you'd like to say something.
Welcome to Zoom. Enter your meeting ID followed by you entered 398250. This meeting ID does not exist. Please re-enter your meeting ID. Enter your participant ID followed by pound. You are in the meeting now. There is one other participant in the meeting.
Hello, can you hear me?
Hello, we can hear you. Thank you for joining us tonight for the presentation. I let folks know internally that, here with us, that we'll start off with the presentation and then we're going to break to solicit some public comments. So I'll just go ahead and turn it right over to you if that's okay.
Yeah, definitely. You can hear me okay?
Yeah, this sounds good.
Okay, great. If there's any issues, let me know.
We might just have you, you could just speak up a little. We have some hard of hearing folks, including me.
Yep. Let me share my screen. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, great. So I'll just introduce myself and then I'll go through the presentation and we'll have time for any questions. So my name is Rachel Skaggs. I'm with WHR. I've been with them for about a year now. Prior to that, I worked as a city manager for a community in Illinois and in some other various management roles in Illinois as well. But I came on board with WHR as a senior vice president a year ago, and my primary focus is classification and compensation studies. I did not work on the beginning of this one with you guys because I don't think I was there yet, but I'm kind of helping just wrap it up and do some updates to it. Joellen, who was the project manager for this study, unfortunately unexpectedly lost her son, so she's been taking some time off. So I'm happy to fill in and work on this with you guys. So I'm going to kind of go through the whole process. You've probably heard some of this before. Like I said, I wasn't involved in all of it, so I just want to make sure we're all on the same page. So let me flip this slide here, maybe. Oh, there we go. So the outline of what we're going to talk about, we'll go over the job evaluation and the proposed classification plan. Then we'll talk about the salary and benefit survey that was done. the proposed compensation plan, the implementation of the plan, and then the future administration of the plan. So one of the first things that was done was a job evaluation. So there were 70 positions in your organization that were reviewed, and they were reviewed using the following 9 job factors. Also, I just want to confirm, did you guys all receive a copy of the updated draft report?
We have a copy in front of us. It doesn't quite match your slides, but it's following along.
Okay. Did you receive a copy of the report to the full one? I think it's like.
Oh, I see the report. Yes. The detailed salary data?
Yep.
Yep. Okay.
So,
Yes.
Appendix A of that report is the job analysis questionnaire that goes over these 9 factors. So all of the positions in your organization were evaluated based on information that was received by that filled out the job analysis questionnaire. And then also we conducted on-site interviews with at least one employee in each position to learn more about their job and their job duties. So that helped us put together the classification plan, and it established internal equity within the organization. So some positions were also reclassified as a result of that job evaluation, and we did recommend some new titles in some instances, and those are shown on table 1, the classification plan. And I can pull any of these tables and appendices up at the end as well too if we have questions. So the next thing we did to focus on kind of the external analysis was establish comparable communities, so we could look at the market data for other communities comparable to yours. So these were the 6 criteria that were used to establish those communities, and that's all the detail for that is included in Appendix B. But once that was completed, these were the top communities that scored more than 50 points, and the ones with asterisks next to them are ones that responded to the survey or provided us with a copy of their compensation plan. So as I mentioned, we collected data through a survey, and each position is defined to make sure that we're getting accurate data for the position. And then we review all of the salary data to determine if the information is appropriate for the position. So you'll see in Appendix C on the detailed salary data, if there was something that we didn't think was appropriate for that position, we still show it, but there'll be 2 sheets for that position, one that's edited and one that's not. So salary ranges are the preferred method that we gather data with, and we want to make sure that the data we're gathering is for the current market for the position.
Okay.
We also listed some benefit data. That was holidays, personal days, vacation, and sick leave, and that's all in Appendix D. Then we take all that internal data and external and put together the proposed compensation plan. After discussions with the administration, we calculated the proposed ranges at the bottom of the 50th percentile of that external market data and the top of the 65th percentile of the municipalities that we surveyed. So that is shown in Table 2, and then the pay ranges and pay plans have also been calculated at those percentiles, which is shown in Table 3. So overall, there's 13 grades, 3 different compensation groups, and I'll go over each of them in a little more detail here. So grades 1 through 4 are the administrative and technical grades, and these have defined step increments of 2.46% between each of them, and there's 16 steps in a grade. So for grade 1, there's 15 steps to get from minimum to maximum, and within each of those steps is a 2.46% increase. And then there's a 10% gradation between each grade, meaning from grade 1 to grade 2 is 10% different, grades 2 to 3, and so on. And then the range spread from minimum to maximum is 43%. It's pretty similar for grades 5 through 9, which are supervisors and advanced technical staff. They also have defined step increments of 2.5% from minimum to maximum, 16 steps as well. The gradation between each grade is 12%, and there's a 50% range spread from minimum to maximum. Then the last is grades 10 through 13. This is directors and senior managers, and these are open ranges. There's no defined increment, so these employees in these positions would be given increases based on performance. there's no defined stepping increment, and there's a 7.5% gradation between the grades and a 50% range spread from minimum to maximum. So when we look at implementing the proposed classification plan, obviously we still might be making changes to it, but if we were looking at implementing it, we always recommend that employees whose present pay is below the minimum of the range should be raised to the minimum. Employees whose present pay is within the range for their classification should be slotted into the new pay plan at their current compensation, and then anyone whose pay is above the range should be held at their rate without a reduction of pay until the range increases to that level. So when you look at table 2, you'll see there's quite a few positions that are in the red, meaning their current rate is below the proposed minimum rate. So when we were talking to the administration, we looked at a way to implement that, and this is just one of the proposed ways you can do that, and it's a 3-year plan. So I'll just kind of go over this, and we can make adjustments to this as well, but it would look something like this. In year 1, you would give a $5,000 increase or less, whatever was needed to get that person to the minimum. So either $5,000 or what was needed to get them to the minimum if it's less than that. And the total approximate cost of that was about $140,000. In year 2, it would be the same thing. It would move employees a little closer. That's about $45,000. And then in year 3, there were still a few positions that wouldn't be at the minimum yet. So the remaining cost to get them to the minimum is around $30,000. So then going forward with the future administration of the plan, we always recommend that you review the positions each year to respond to any changing conditions. You can create, adjust, or abolish positions as needed. And then also on the compensation side, you want to make sure that you survey the communities, the comparable communities that we've recommended to see if there's any salary changes, and then adjust the pay ranges as needed. So that is kind of a fast presentation and overview. I'm happy to answer questions or pull up any of the tables that I talked about.
Are there any, first I'll open it up to, are there any questions locally? Councilmember Casagrande, do you have any questions? I'm going to open it up for public comments, but I'm looking to see if there's questions within the council first.
The packet was really long, and I tried to make the best understanding of it as I could. And I guess if I can ask the representative one question, it would be, in the rate study, there's several positions where everything's just blank.
Yeah.
Are we to that point yet, or am I jumping ahead?
No, that's a good question. So when we send out the surveys, we establish what we call benchmark positions, because oftentimes you don't get a good response from communities when you send them a survey with 70 to 80 different positions. So we establish these benchmark positions that are representative of all of the pay grades for your community. And so we try to limit it to about 30 to 40. So the ones that don't have the external market data, we're not surveying. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, so I guess my next question would be, how were the benchmark positions selected? And I also didn't notice, in the report, I noticed there were, it brought attention to people that were being underpaid compared to other communities, but do we have positions that are overly paid compared to other communities? And is that outlined in the report as well?
Sure. So first I'll answer the benchmark positions question. So like I said, I wasn't involved in the beginning stages of the study, so I don't have a specific answer for your community, but typically when we do these studies, we always, to establish the benchmark positions, we look at two things. The first thing is we want to make sure they're positions that are going to be found in those other communities, because we want to get as much data as we can. So if it's a position that most communities don't have, we won't include that in the benchmark positions. And then the second thing we look at is making sure that the benchmark positions that we choose are representative of all the pay grades within your organization. So we don't want to choose all the director positions, but none of the maybe entry-level positions. So you want to have a representative group. So that's typically how those are chosen. And then secondly, overpaid. So when we put the proposed pay plan together, we were told to use the top of the 65th percentile. So with that data, no one is overpaid over that. So that's why you don't see any green on that spreadsheet, just red.
And then I have one question that's maybe partly Gov HR and then partly administration, or maybe it's a council question too, is there's very little data for our utility director, and I'm guessing, again, that's because not a lot of municipal governments have electric utilities. And I just want to start the conversation as I'm afraid, because we've had kind of very little interest in filling that position, that since we don't have that data, that position's being advertised or is very low compared to, so I'm afraid we're not getting good qualified people, or if we do get qualified people at the lower rate, and then we end up raising that salary. I mean, I guess if we're going to look at raising the utility director's pay, it would be good to decide that ahead of time and then recruit at that higher pay to get a better pool of applicants. So that was a long conversation, but just to confirm for me, the reason why there's not a lot of data is because that's not a position normally found.
Exactly, yes, that's correct. And one thing, I think we did recommend, let me see, to change the title to director instead of manager, which might help with some of that. And then also, we could go back and look at the job factor analysis score for that position and make sure it's high enough for where we want it, given the responsibilities of that position.
So I guess before we hire someone, is that something that council, I just think it's something important to do. I don't know if people agree with that. I mean, it would be good to have a second look at that position specifically. And I don't know if you do comparables to non-municipal, like not,
like private sector.
Yeah. Especially,
sometimes we do look at that, and I did just confirm, so it looks like the position title is utility manager. We did recommend changing that to utility director.
which I would agree with that. But I just am looking around and looking at administration, because it would be important to do that before we hire someone to get a larger pool of applicants. So I'll look around for questions, and maybe if there's no current council questions, we'll let public ask questions, and that might spur some more discussion within council. So Brenda, I know there are folks signed up to be reached out to.
Yes, we have several people who want to be called, so.
And Rachel, thanks, that was a great overview.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I know it was fast, so once you kind of get to the detail more of your questions, I'm always available.
Okay. We're gonna call and reach out to folks that have asked to be called with questions.
Okay.
I'm gonna do it on my phone since we're tying up both of them.
Okay.
Patrick?
Yes.
This is Patrick Messmer. You are with council in the work session, and we're starting our first round of call-outs.
Okay, can I begin?
You
Yes.
may.
Okay, overall I'd like to point out that this is an improvement for most employees over the older current wage system. And I appreciate the work that GovHR and the administration have done on this, but there are a few areas of concerns I'd like to go through. The first one is the classification system is based on internal equity versus external. And using this approach, in my opinion, leads to an arbitrary method that does not match market wages. For example, like if we have a job that is sort of pays $10 an hour, everyone else is paying $15 an hour, we're not going to be able to get qualified applicants for that. And when, this will lead workers to, want to leave and take their skills elsewhere. It makes it also harder to hire them. One thing I noticed about going through the wage brochures on the appendix is the management often pays more than the regular rate for the market for line than line staff does, and line staff is often below it. I guess my next point down here is GovHR also recommends paying. Sorry, got off my track here for a second. Offers paying higher wages to people you haven't had a historical bad turnover rate with, but on other examples where we have had problems, it actually says that we should pay them lower than the market rate. For example, the water or sewer operators, according to the study there, they want to pay them at about $2,000 less than they make now on the top end, and the 65 percentile external data says they should make about $3,000 or $4,000 more than they currently make. My third point is the percentile ranges listed, from 50th to 65th. They're not based on market data. I don't really know what they're based on, but you can see in the document there what the actual market data is, and it doesn't line up with these scales, at least not 100%. The fourth area where I can see an issue is the implementation program suggests that the catch up, like the first year it's 5,000, second year it's another 5,000, and then the last year it's all of it. So with that system, we could actually have a 5-year employee who's a dispatcher make less money than a brand new dispatcher we hire at full rate. I can see that being a huge morale problem. The next issue I'd like to go over on page 16 is, I think this is a good thing. They talk about we should respond to changing market demands and conditions. I agree. I think we should start with that. I think we should make all our wages for everyone from the lowest paid on up, just make them match what the market actually says from the 50th to 65th percentiles. The last point I have that's an issue that I could see is the study recommends an open range system for range 10 to 13 employees. And like the last city manager and I agreed on this, that leaves a lot of potential for abuse. For example, you could have an employee who just started, as say the administrator likes him, raise them all the way up to the top of the pay scale. Or you could have someone the administrator doesn't like, or could just give them no raise or very minimal. There's no consistency to it. It could be easily abused. And those are my points for now.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, do you want to stay on the call list?
Yes, please.
Okay. All right, goodbye.
Bye.
Okay, next is,
Ask one question before.
Yeah, go ahead.
Brenda, could I ask one question?
Go ahead.
So currently, what would happen if you implemented all 3 stages at one time? Would that cost $217,223, or would it cost more?
I think the total is 217. I was gonna look. 1 second.
Yes, it's a
And
217,
I'm kind of having a
223.
hard time hearing on the phone, so I couldn't hear all of his comments, but I sort of did. Yeah, so the total cost to implement all at once would be, with these proposed salary ranges, is 217 to 23.
So question,
Councilmember Alcindor?
so would that also add to bennies, to benefits, to retirement funds? Would those automatically go up also?
Does that
So
include?
I'm not sure how it's structured there, but I would have to look at that.
There's 2 different ones, right? So there
Well,
would be-
right, but your salary determines what you're paying into your retirement, I'm saying. So if you give them 200 and some 17,000 all in 1 year, that means bennies go up too, I believe, if I'm not mistaken.
Is that correct?
So-
That's just the salary, not the additional benefits.
Right, but if you make more,
Correct.
so like, some people make more than more, we're going to their PERS. So that, and they do a percentage that way. But on tier 4s, I am not sure, so.
I
Okay,
can get Becky to get you guys that calculation, but that's not included in that.
okay, thank you, good question. Does that cover it? We'll go to the
Yes,
next.
thank you.
Can we go to the next public
okay.
comment?
Next is gonna be Jason Audette.
Is she gonna address is she gonna address those questions that Patrick raised now, or?
Well, I was thinking we'd kind of go.
Hello?
Hi,
Through a few of
Jason,
these.
you are with City Council in the work session.
Alright, hey, how's it going, guys? My name's Jason. I don't know if you know me. I've worked for the city for about 7 years now. 2 years in the street department and almost 5 in the water department, and I was calling today to bring to your attention some scoring discrepancies with the JAQ, and what we turned in versus what came out on the report. For my position, I sent you guys the handout I typed out. For my position, we scored as high as 170, but on the report we're listed as a 460, and that's a pretty big discrepancy from what we turned in versus what was compiled. And either I reached out to HR and they were basically just, we changed it, we reached out to the city and we changed it. I believe it was run through our Public Works Director Doug, and he signed off on what we turned in. So that rate 460, I believe that puts us here. I have it highlighted for you. That puts us in a range 6, which is quite a bit below what our job is paid in pretty much every other utility around the state. And you'll also notice that our job is range 13 to 17 as is. Most of 13 to 17 wound up in grade 7 or grade 8. And with the only grade 17 that was put in the grade 6 on the wage study. So I want to bring that to your attention. Another thing was they have our salary listed at 52,773 to 17,776. That was an error I brought up a couple times throughout the process. That is not what we make. That's what the foreman makes. The operator's salary currently is 43,306 to 65,916. So just so you know that we're doing now, that is a discrepancy. I do not make 52 to 72 at the stand. And my coworkers will tell you a lot more of this, but just as it sits, if we were scored fairly, what we turned in, myself and our foreman position, if we were put in those groups, those would be perfectly acceptable, fair and competitive rates, looking at other communities and what they're paid for our job and our licenses and everything. We have to keep up to date with the state. And that is really just what I wanted to bring to your attention, that there is a pretty glaring discrepancy there. That numbers were arbitrarily changed for whatever reason. That's for you to figure out. I just want to bring it to your attention that we were I don't know what happened, but just so you know, that's where we scored at versus what we turned in. The foreman scored as high as 650, and on the report they came in at a 555. So that is what I just want to bring to your attention for you to talk over.
Thank you, Jason. Would you like to stay on the call list?
No, that's all I have to say. But I guess leave me on there if someone has a specific question for me, you can call back. So other than that, that's my bit I have to say.
Okay, thank you.
Awesome, thanks.
Okay.
So that was pretty clear, Rachel. Did you hear that? So it says water, wastewater operator. The pay is repeated from actually what it says water, wastewater foreman.
Yeah, so, 1 second, I'm trying to pull it up on here, so I'm looking at the right thing. So the range for water wastewater operator is not the correct range, for the current range, correct?
Correct.
We will make sure, we'll need to get, I couldn't hear the numbers you said what the current range is, so I'll just need someone to send me that so I can update it. And you want me to comment on his other questions, or
Sure.
are we gonna wait?
Yeah, so it might be cleaner. That was a little easier to hear for you. So and that has to do with the scoring.
Right, and like I said, I wasn't involved in the preliminary stages of the study, so that's a little more difficult for me, but I'll follow back up with Joellen. But I will say that the employees fill out the JAQ, the supervisor reviews it, or the department head, and then we do those interviews so that we make sure we're scoring all the positions fairly. So oftentimes there are changes on the JAQ that we make during those interviews when we learn more about the position, but I don't know the specifics for that position since I wasn't involved in the interview, so I can find out the specifics on that.
Okay, if you could look into that, that'd be great, because for sure that salary range is incorrect.
Sure.
And I guess we should probably go back to Patrick's points. Did you have some comments on those initial points?
No, I'm just interested to hear her responses.
I don't know if you could hear those first 4 points that were brought up at all.
So let me see, I took some notes. So one of the first ones was about the classification system being based on internal equity and not external. And my only comment on that is the compensation, the market survey takes care of the external stuff. So the classification focuses on internal equity, the compensation portion focuses on the external equity with the market data. So I did hear that. I also understand what he was saying about the implementation program, that if the city would decide to do the 3-year thing, I think he brought up a really good point that if there was a new dispatcher, they would come in making maybe more than someone who isn't brought up to that minimum yet. So that's something we should definitely consider. Those were the 2 points I put down, so I think I couldn't hear the other one.
Okay, that's a good start. We'll call him back
Got it,
too.
ma'am.
Yeah.
So the numbers that Mr. Audette was talking about, for what he makes, what he says he makes is 43,306 was the low end,
Yeah.
and 65,916 on the high end was the topped out. So those are those numbers that he was talking about, what he actually makes, not what's written in this, on this comprehensive table.
Could we email those to Rachel? I think those are outlined on his comments
Yeah,
too.
they're on his comments.
Yeah.
Yeah, if I could have a copy of the comments, that would be great.
Okay. Madam Clerk, can we call the next person,
Okay,
please?
next is Jason Knoyer.
Hello.
Hi, Jason. You are with City Council in the work session. Go ahead.
Okay. All right. Thank you guys for giving me a chance to speak with you tonight. A few things I just kind of wanted to touch base on, and a little bit about, I guess, my name is Jason Knoyer. I'm a water wastewater operator with the City of Seward. I've been with the City of Seward for 15 years now, going on 16 years this February. And I'm pretty much topped out on the pay scale as an operator. Being an operator, it takes 6 to 7, almost 8 years to kind of get certified for all the licenses that the city requires us to carry. And it's a lot of testing, a lot of studying, it's a lot of time in the system, learning everything. Once we get to that point and we get all of our testing and stuff, our names, licenses go into state databases. And other municipalities and other companies around the state are able to look at that and see that, and we've been getting quite a few job offers in the mail and emails from other cities from time to time. And most of the time when these job offers are coming in, they're typically, from what I'm seeing, $5 to $13 an hour as operators for the City of Seward. And so I submitted some data tonight or today on in front of you guys tonight, so you can kind of see as operators. And last City of Seward water wastewater operator position that was posted as range 13.5 to range 17, and it starts out at $20 an hour, and then range 17. If you also look, I submitted City of Seward hourly pay scale. You go down to range 17, and next down to J's, the next you can ever go, it's 31.69. So with that being said, that puts us at 65, 65.9 on the top end of our scale for what we can make after we max out with the City of Seward. And that does not reflect what HR predicted. They're showing us making 72,000, which is at the top of our scale, which is incorrect. So I just wanted to kind of point that out as well. Also, those numbers being said, from references from what we're seeing, I submitted some documentation just so you can see kind of what we're looking at. There's is a report from fiscal year 2020 proposed operating budget for the city of Soldotna. Just as an example, I highlighted the water wastewater range, which is 13 to 15 for the city of Soldotna. And if you open up to 4 pages, I highlighted range 15, where their operators, their level 2 operators are starting $30 an hour, which is about where our scale maxes out, and in their 10 years of service, they're almost up to $40 an hour, $39.26, which is a far cry from where we're at here in the city of Seward. So that's just one community. And then we also submitted a couple of letters that I've received in the mail, and then also a couple emails, job offers, just so you guys can see kind of what we're getting. There's one from Toyon Utilities. My name is showing what they're paying their operators, level 2 operators, utilities, and $13 an hour for the city of Seward. And then if you go to Kenai, this one here isn't as detailed. It's just showing their starting pay scale in 2017. Sorry about the age on this one, but in 2017, their starting scale was 29.8, which is almost where our scale's, topping out from the city of Soldotna. That with kind of similar numbers. So I just kind of wanted to bring that to your attention and let you know that what the GovHR study is trying to put us in, the group they're putting us in isn't what fair market value for our job positions actually is, and there's a huge discrepancy there. Us as operators, that have put our whole career in the city, see these numbers, it's very discouraging for us, and it creates low morale seeing this and seeing these studies come back, not recommending any for us, even after we kind of showed them the numbers and the data that's coming in that we're seeing on our end. It's discouraging. It's tough to stomach, seeing kind of dealt. So anyway, that's just my opinion that I wanted to bring across tonight. Just kind of show you some numbers of seeing and why we're feeling the way we're feeling. And thank you guys for giving me your time to speak my mind. Say it tonight.
Thank you, Jason. Would you like to stay on the call list?
No, I've got a couple of things I need to take care of tonight, so I think if you could take me off the call list at this point, unless you've got some detailed, you've got more questions about, if you could just take me off the list, that'd probably be good.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Jason.
No, thank you.
Bye.
So that's two comments surrounding that position, and he did provide some other city comparables. I wonder if that position specifically could get looked at again. Or do you have any comments?
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead, or if you have any thoughts.
Yeah, so we can definitely look at it again. I couldn't hear what city he used as the comp, so if you could send me that information, that would be super helpful. Because I did just look, the data we had for that position from the comps that were chosen through the study based on that criteria, I went over, the range for that position based on that data from those comps is at the 50th percentile, around 52 to 72. But I'd be happy to look at others, and I think it was the same position that the previous person talked about, so we can go ahead and look at the job factor analysis for that position again too.
Great, thank you. Was that your comment? Okay, do we have anyone else signed in?
We do.
I'm sorry. No.
I thought John makes a sound.
I'm good, thank you.
Okay, next to call is Nort Edelman.
Thank you.
Can we make sure that she has notes?
Yeah, could you just send
Email
all
all
these
this
comments
to
to her?
Hi, Nort, you are with City Council in the work session. You go ahead and start your comments.
Very good, very good. Honorable Mayor, Council Member, and City Administration, would just like to touch on a few things that my other two crew members have discussed. As he said, it takes about 8 years for us to get all levels that we need to operate the city system. So the city is putting some time and effort into these employees, as well as the employees putting it into the city. We are constantly scrutinized by DEC and EPA. We have yearly inspections and monthly reports. With saying that, we average about 80 tests that we submit to DEC with water and wastewater in the summer months, and over 100 in this, 80 plus is the winter months and over 100 in the summer months with base samples and other things. And as Jason had mentioned, that we are always having to acquire continuing educational units to keep our certifications current. The city is lucky to have the crew they have. They're pretty diversified. We are probably the only department that will help out other departments as far as the harbor. We fire up the harbor in springtime and winterize it in fall, as well as Parks and Rec, and then all the other companies that are seasonal here. I can't tell you how many average water turn-ons and turn-offs we do, but we're staying busy. All of the other communities that Jason had mentioned, for the most part, they have just 4 crews. You have a water treatment crew that doesn't leave the plant. You have a water distribution crew, and they're probably collection crew too, that are out in the field. You have wastewater operators at their plants. We cover them all. Every one of us can do just about all the jobs. Well, no, we can't do all the jobs, and I think we tackle them as aggressively as we have to, and we get it all done. I just want to say again that the city's lucky to have a good crew, and they have a lot of good crews in all the other departments as well. We're fortunate to have the employees that we have. That's about all I can say. Thanks for your time.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Nort. Do you want to stay on the list for calling?
No, I'm done for the evening, thanks.
All right, thank you. Good night.
Yep, bye.
Yeah, and just looking at page, well, it's page 74 or page 96 of our packet. If you put in the actuals for the water wastewater operator as opposed to the foreman numbers, it looks like there's some upward movement. Did we lose our Zoom call?
We did.
No, she's there.
Okay,
I'm
good.
still here.
I just
Okay, good.
have it off screen because I'm in my email trying to
Okay,
send her
perfect.
the.
Okay, the city clerk's gonna send you those comments, and then, yeah, just looking at that, I think if we plug in those numbers, it looks like there is some upward movement comparing to the other cities. The actual pay.
The data that you provided that's not in here is what you're saying?
Well, no, even with the data that's in here, if you plug in the actual pay range instead of having the foreman pay range in there, it looks like there's some upward movement when you look at even the 50th percentile.
So your pay range isn't part of the percentiles. The percentiles are only based on the comparable communities. That's just in there. So, but we do need to change it to make sure it's the correct, but it wouldn't affect the percentiles.
Oh, no, I realize realized that, but on those pages, it does list where Seward is, and then just comparing with the new Seward numbers that are accurate, and then looking down at those percentiles, it looks like the 50th percent, even the 50th percentile is higher than what our numbers are.
Yes, got it, yep, I get what you're saying, that's correct.
Rachel, you should have 3 emails in your inbox
Great,
with attachments for those comments, okay?
yep, I got it, thank you.
So I might look to or are there more public calls?
Yes,
Okay,
2 more.
2 more. Were there any specific positions you had questions about?
Not specific positions, but I was hoping, Rachel, could you go back to slide 15 from your presentation? Specifically the bottom 50% of slide 15, and walk us through the methodology that was used for tenure and those calculations
Oh,
for...
the longevity one.
Correct.
Oh, yeah, I didn't put that on my final presentation just because I wasn't sure if that's something you wanted to consider, but I didn't want to talk about that, so I'm glad you brought it up. Let me pull up. So sometimes we get asked in studies, you know, what do we do with the employees that have worked for the municipality for a long time, but based on the new proposed ranges, they're at the bottom or near the bottom of the pay range. That means that they've been paid probably under market value for some time given their tenure with the organization. So if you were interested in implementing a program like that, I put together some estimated numbers, and I'll go over that really quickly. So an example of that would be someone that's been in the position for at least 10 years, and they're within 5,000 from the minimum or below the minimum, we would apply the following recommendations. So employees with 10 to 15 years of service, within that $5,000 from the middle of the range, would receive an additional 2% increase, and then employees with over 16 years of service within that same range would receive a 3% increase. It applies to about 5 positions, and the total expected cost, if you wanted to implement that, would be about $8,000. So that's just, like I said, for employees that have been in their positions for a long time, and based on the new proposed ranges, are at the minimum or below the minimum. It just kind of shows that they've probably been undercompensated based on the external data. So that's an option for you if you wanted to implement that.
Thank you. So Madam Clerk, let's go to our next out.
The next call is to Karen Corrigan. Karen?
Hello.
Hi.
Let me mute my video. Okay, can you hear me okay?
Yep, you're on with council.
Okay. Just so Canoyer knows, half of his audio was unreadable even to me listening at home. In case he's still listening.
Go ahead with your comments.
But you guys can hear me okay?
Yeah, we could hear the former speakers also, but go ahead, we can hear you clearly.
Okay, so I'd like to thank WHR for the hard work that you put into the study. You did what you could with the information you were provided. I would love to discuss how far off my job description is, as many others will tonight. Excuse me for my voice being shaky. And yes, it's off, and the requested changes have been denied over and over again for years, not just since I've been in the position. But I want to talk about something more encompassing for all employees. The city used to be the most appealing place to work at. Often it was hard to get hired, not because requirements were too high, but because the number of people applying were too great. When I was hired in 1999, there were 6 of us hired within months of each other at the police department. When we were hired, medical was free and the 90-10, as in employees only paid 10% of the charges. The city had a good retirement system with PERS. You knew you would have a steady job, and if you hung in there, you would get benefits and a pension. The starting jobs were the higher paying jobs in town. I have worked for the city 21 years now. I am the only one left. Excuse me. From the group I was hired with. Now our insurance. Sorry, I get emotional sometimes. Now our insurance is 80/20. I only pay hundreds of dollars a month for it. I worry every day if my pension will be taken away, being the last few in tier 3 of PERS. I also worry that I won't last until the 30-year mark for my retirement. The city has a way of eliminating higher paid and long-term employees. Even if my pay is 4 times less than supervisors. Over 20 years, I have endured pay freezes, complete lack of yearly COLA increases, and found myself wondering 5 years ago, how could a married couple, both working at the city, both nearly topped out in their step increases, be living barely paycheck to paycheck? We should have been able to live comfortably, but we're struggling. Excuse me. Then I realized we had no pay adjustments, no COLAs, and pay freezes. The electric, sewer, water, and medical insurance all continue to rise. These were all directly city-related costs put onto us, taking money straight out of our paychecks, literally or through bills. And we were refused to be given raises. This forced me to look for a second job, eventually starting my own business to try and supplement. How many employees have been forced to supplement their income? No one asks us that. How many employees have left the city desperate to find housing they can afford? Or to find jobs that will let them get their head above water? How many employees were forced to leave because they were tired of promises going unfilled? Or left because they were harassed so badly they feared being fired because things were done just inside the lines? I had seen at least 2 previous studies done, and they came back with the same result. 2001, Scott Jenke had a wage study done. 2008, Philip Oates hired John Bird to do what they hid and described as an HR efficiency study. Basically, both studies found that the employees were overtasked and underpaid. Nothing resulted from these studies aside from title changes. Again, no pay adjustments. The city is undermanned, underpaid, and the employees are overtasked. Something voiced again by the water department tonight. The answer from management and council: we don't have the funding and let's rename some positions. Nothing in the end was done to improve the employee situation. I'm not talking about management, I'm talking about the non-management workers. The ones that a multi-$100 medical insurance fee takes a large chunk out of our paychecks. So the employees finally get brave enough to form a union, and many employees paid dearly for that fight and are no longer employees. Look at who is gone now from when these talks started, not 2 years ago. Sorry, I just lost my spot. Don't be like other councils get the job done, unify our job titles, don't just rename things to make them sound unique. Give us the pay we need to stay in Seward working for the city. GovHR has the proof we are underpaid. Let's get it done. The money is there. The city spends hundreds of thousands of dollars monthly on small projects. $217,000 is a speck in the city's budget. Please end the legacy of the broken promises and make the city a place where people are eager to work at again. Thank you. Sorry for my emotions.
No, thank you, Karen. Great job hanging in there. We appreciate your comments.
Thank you, Karen. Would you like to stay on the call list tonight?
Oh, I can come up with a mess now.
Okay. Okay.
Thanks again, Karen.
Thank you. Okay, one more, and, or did you want to?
No, I think, I don't know that there's any questions to answer to that. I appreciate her testimony.
So the last person for now is Michelle Oliver.
Okay, thank you.
Hello?
Hi, Michelle. You're with City Council. If you could mute your sound in the back.
Sure, hold on just a second. Okay.
Thanks, and go ahead and you can make your comments.
Hi, I'm Michelle Oliver. I'm a dispatcher. And one thing that I wanted to bring up is that there was a draft final report presented on November 12th of 2019, which I still have a copy of. And it is a little bit different than what you're being presented tonight. One of the things that I'm looking at are the pay ranges. In the GovHR 2019 report, range 13 started at $83,855. Now it's starting at $86,961. That's a difference of $3,000 up for range 13. And that follows through all the way down to range 7. And then in range 5 and 6, we lose money for those ranges. And then on ranges 1 through 4, they pretty much stay the same. So I'd like to have an answer as to what changed between those two different reports from one year to the next. The next thing that I'm looking at is I looked at some of the titles that were presented in the first report versus the second report. This first report had the Deputy Finance Director at a grade 10. It's now at a grade 12. The Deputy Police Chief was at a grade 11 going to a grade 12. Information Technology Manager from 11 to 12. Then you've got the Correctional Sergeant that goes from a grade 8 in 2019 down to a grade 7. The same thing with the Dispatch Supervisor and a few of the others. So I'd like to find out what changed from the draft report of 2019 versus 2020. These are some things that needed to be worked out and figured out. I really appreciate the work that's been done. I don't want to stop anything from going forward, but I do think that that needs to be looked at.
Could you go ahead and
name? The other thing that I would like to bring forward is if you plug in my wage right now with where I'm at, I'm basically going to end up staying where I'm at. I've been here 5 years, and the people that are coming in are going to be paid the same wage that I am after 5 years. I think there needs to be something done for those people that have longevity. You have training that you go through, you have continuing education units that you have to continue with, and I don't think it's extremely responsible to do that to your long-term employees, whether they're in dispatch, whether they're in the electric department, whether they're in wastewater, wherever they may be. So if I can have and I realize that the person that is presenting tonight is not Joellen, and I'm not sure she'll have the answers, but it is something that I have questions about. Thank you.
Could you, before you hang up, would you just, I don't need a recap on the narrative, but would you just say those positions and what the changes were?
I can pull,
Are you,
I don't want to-
so Deputy Finance Director went from grade 10 in 2019 to grade 2020. Deputy Police Chief or the Patrol Lieutenant went from a grade 11 to a grade 12. Information Technology Director or Manager went from 11 to 12. Electrical Foreman was grade 9 in 2019 and it's not even in the 2020. Corrections Sergeant went from a grade 8 down to a grade 7. Dispatch Supervisor went from a grade 8 down to a grade 7. And again, those are just some of them.
Great, thank you.
Thank you, Michelle. Would you like to stay on the call list for tonight?
Yes, please.
Okay, thank you. We'll talk to you later.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.
So, Rachel, you weren't there in November, but I'm sure it's because council had comments and questions and some of those positions were looked at. So I don't know if you have any comments specific to those.
yeah, I don't have anything specific. We can go back and see. I mean, the one thing I will say about the pay ranges that she mentioned first, everything's tied together. So when one gets adjusted, that's why the other ones do. And, but we can definitely take a look at that. And then also regarding the positions that moved grades from the 2019 report, I know that we had worked with the city administration on some changes, and that's probably happened within those changes. But we can make a list of what changed and relook at that. The other thing I was going to mention, she said the electric foreman wasn't even on there. One of the changes we did make was separating out those contracted positions from this, and I have that as a contracted position, so that's on a separate tab. So those would be my preliminary
Is that
comments.
'cause it's
so
a
we can
union?
Take a
I
deeper
don't
look
know
at that.
IDEW.
Okay, thank you, that's great. And that was our last call, at least for this point?
Right.
Okay. So maybe I'll turn it over to administration and ask you what you need from us.
We just need direction on where council would like us to go from here
Okay.
with this. We had preliminarily set a date to begin discussions with the union. So we just need guidance on where council would like us to go from here.
Okay, so one of the things to look at is a 3-year plan versus ripping the Band-Aid and doing it in 1 year or 2 years or however we want to structure that. So right now in our presentation is a 3-year plan. So comments regarding that? Vice Mayor?
I'm not in favor of the 3-year plan just because of the fact, like many of the employees have stated tonight, new hires would be coming in at the same pay as some other people, or pay more. Would be paid more than the people who have been been here longer. That being said, I don't know what the solution is to individual jobs and taking that out and what is one person's worth over another. Not saying that anyone is. I'm just saying this might be, there has to be an agreement, a solution between those things. I don't think it's going to be, the best solution is going to be everyone's not happy. It's not going to work in everyone's favor. So I don't know what, there's a few comments tonight. Maybe as this goes around, there's more comments when we come back again. I guess what I'm asking is, how do we proceed in a fair and responsible way, addressing some maybe discrepancies in some of the pay groups, but still somewhat of a fair raise and pay for everyone.
Councilmember Osenga?
Let's see, how can I word this without, what I would say is, I would probably want to see numbers before we actually gave direction on 3-year or all at once. I'd like to see how that would impact Benny's, PERS, and what the total cost would be, either spread out over 3 years to this city, especially after our summer we had, versus all at once. I think that would probably be a smart way to do it, just so we have numbers and we know before we make a decision.
Can we get those two comparisons? And then the other thing that we want to see what it looks like for the longevity 2% and 3% increases for those 5 positions. Could we also see what that looks like in there? I guess for sure we want to make sure to recalculate that water wastewater with the correct numbers. So there's 2 things happening. It's the cart before the horse, or the horse before the cart. Because before we can really take a look and start doing our mid-session budget adjustments, taking into account our COVID losses and sales tax losses, before we can do all that with the budgeting, we're going to have to know what this impact looks like. But before we know what this impact's going to look like, we also need to have all that other information, in my opinion. So maybe I'll ask you folks, from the borough standpoint, when will we have those 3rd quarter sales tax numbers? That's going to be a big...
So, so I had spoken with Sam about that. He's out of the office this week. By, I believe, the 3rd week of November, we should have our final revenue numbers that are going to be necessary in order to look at mid-cycle budget. So,
I think this council definitely wants to look at making sure that employees' wages are comparable and fair. The timing is not great, but when is the timing ever great? Because my understanding is, I know at least last year there was no COLA, and I don't know what the COLAs were previous to last year, and I don't think those were in place. So I know that wages are definitely not keeping up with the cost of living. Is that right? Does anyone remember? I think it's been a number of years since a COLA's been budgeted.
I want to say 3 to 4 years ago.
Yeah,
Something like
so it's
that.
at least, so I mean, we need to. So it sounds like people are ready to make a decision today. So the night of November 9th, so like this Monday, in your manager's report, could you bring up when maybe we can have a second work session? Or have those numbers provided? And maybe also let us know when you need a decision by?
I mean, we're looking at a tight time frame, to be honest. You know, with the hope of having something in place by January 1st. Rachel, when do you suppose you can get us the revised numbers with regard to the follow-up questions that you received this evening?
Yes, so I think in the next week, I could probably have you a revised version. I need some help from someone at the city with a few of those, getting me some information, but as long as I get the information, I would say I could have the revised version to you by next week.
Okay, we'll reach out to you tomorrow morning.
Okay.
I don't have a calendar in front of me, but, so November 9th is Monday, and we already have a work session and a meeting that night. And so I'm guessing the 23rd is too late to get information back to you. So after the 9th, maybe you could set up either a special meeting or a work session to get direction from us.
Would it be possible to set a tentative date tonight, and then if we need to...
You have a work session on the 16th.
Is that too late?
Budget and finance information from Sam Hickok.
Is that too late? What I would say is we kick off with this so that you have a definite information.
That's a Monday.
Monday the 16th. So if folks have that information, Councilmember Osenga, that was good to clarify those two items that we're looking for. Will we have a path forward? I think we're looking at either a 3-year structure or seeing if we want to combine that. And it's just making that determination. So I guess the other piece is if we do the 3-year structure, maybe some ideas on how administration would address, that incongruency of having someone with the old structure and then someone coming in with the new structure.
Is there Rachel, is there a thought on how that has been, a solution for that, how that's been in any other municipality or government?
Yes, so that's a great question, and I'm actually going to reach out to some of my coworkers and discuss that with them because I haven't seen that in the last year, in any of the studies I've been on in the last year. We haven't had that issue, but I'm sure some of my coworkers have, so let me ask them that question and see if we have maybe another recommendation on how to handle that aspect.
Okay. Thank you. Councilmember Cease?
You're talking about the 16th. I have it on here that we're having a meeting at 6 with Sam.
Mhm.
Yep, that's finance.
Yeah, so, and then we're gonna come back to this. Is that what?
We'll add this as another topic to that
Okay.
work session.
Okay.
Is that, did I understand that correctly?
Yes. Vice Mayor?
Do we want to have that as another work session or as a special meeting? Just because at that point, if we have the information, we cannot act at a work session.
But what we can do is we can make recommendation and that'll be part of the budget adjustments that will come back to us for final. Because the other
I see.
piece that needs to happen is they still have to bring this information back to the union.
That's what.
So even if we make a final determination, there'll still be more decisions to be
Right,
made.
so we're gonna have to kind of, like, to the mayor's point a minute ago, we're gonna present council with the information so the administration could get guidance on how to go back and negotiate with the union, and then as a result of that, we'll then bring back the results of that to council for approval. And just Brooks, the city attorney's have been involved in communication with Norm and I on this topic as well, and will be working with us as we move forward, so.
Councilmember Casagrande, I've been neglecting you. Did you have any comments?
I guess my only comment about the subject at hand is administration pointed out that we wouldn't have borough numbers till the 3rd week of November, and we're going to have a budget finance work session on November 16th, and then we're talking about having a special meeting and giving direction for a pay increase. And as a small business owner, I know how I have been affected. I don't know if there's any, I know that the city gets bed tax, maybe administration has like some sort of insight of, are we going to be totally shocked? Are we going to do something too soon and then wish that we didn't? And then I guess my other concern is, the water sewer rate study was asked for well before the rate study, and I just, I hear all of the administration, and I definitely want to find a way to increase everybody's pay, but on the other hand, for the citizens of Seward, I don't want it to come back that, oh, and by the way, we're hurting in our water and sewer, and we have to drastically increase our prices. So I know it's enterprise fund, I know it's general fund, you can't take one from the other, but the money has to come from somewhere. And so I guess my input is just, I need more information. Like, it took me a while even to put the pieces of this report together, it was huge. And yeah, that's my input, thank you.
Good comments, thank you. So, yeah, I think we're struggling wanting information from the borough, and I don't know that the city's gonna get that, but maybe fruit baskets. See if we can bribe them. Hopefully they'll get us the information a little bit earlier than what we're expecting.
Can I ask a quick question? Do we have any financial forecasting done for the next quarter or anything like that on our income?
Yes, I can get that to you. I didn't.
I mean, I guess I'm just wondering if that's a normal thing
I
that,
think we were thinking 40% was what we were gonna get for our
Right.
sales
Yeah.
tax.
Yeah.
So I think that's what they were budgeting, is maybe 40 or 50% of sales tax returns. For that period.
right.
And so that's probably why having that work session on the 16th is so key too, to start talking about those items.
So what time are we starting on the 16th?
6 o'clock. We're just
Yeah, well,
wrapping it into that work
That
session.
same one,
Yeah.
okay.
Well, are there any other questions for Rachel while we have her on? Do we need to do,
Patrick was on the
let's
call
go
list,
ahead and
right?
redo some phone calls.
Okay. We'll do some follow-up calls. The first one is Patrick Messmer.
Hello.
Hi, Patrick, you're back on with City Council.
Hi, I just wanted to, did you guys have questions for me before I go on to something? Any follow-up questions?
Yep. We're calling back for additional comments.
Oh, okay. All right, there's one thing I wanted to mention in there that wasn't mentioned, and it was unifying the titles for some of the jobs, and I guess it's something to work out with city manager, or city management, but they're in the wage study, they have a lot of different titles for clerks who do the same thing, and I think they should be about the same pay range. That was something, I think Karen was alluding to in her thing. I had an idea for the vice mayor when he's asking what can we do for longevity and whatnot. We could bring people in at their current pay range that corresponds to the new pay scale is a 16-step thing. Our old one is like 10 steps. So if an employee's at range C, we could move them to range C in the new scale. That may be more expensive. There may be some compromise between that and what's here, but I think there's room to make it work for the city and the employees. The other thing I'd like to do is I'd like to thank the city council and the administration and GovHR for working with us on this. It's been a long road, but I think we're getting done, which is good. That's what I have.
Great, thank you, Patrick.
Okay, thank you.
Did you want
And
me to
then-
comment before? Okay,
Go
then, let's go ahead.
Madam Mayor, so you, Councilmember Casagrande was asking about the water and sewer rate studies. You're actually gonna discuss it on November 9th, item B, other new business, and number 4. You're gonna be talking about it, so just let her know that's gonna be.
So
on.
Monday night.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, that's perfect, thank you. Next.
And
call.
then Michelle Oliver wanted to call back.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, thanks, Norm.
Hello.
Hi, Michelle, you're back with City Council for your last comment.
I only gave a couple of the job descriptions that were graded differently, but there were more, so that might need to be looked into. The other thing with the ranges is that even if they're supposedly going in the same gradation, range 5 and 6 shouldn't be dropping below what they were in 2019. If anything, they should be going up. And I'm not understanding why that's happening, but I think that those two, especially along with ranges 1 through 6, are kind of getting the shaft where the upper echelon are getting basically an increase of anywhere from $1,200 to $3,100 at the base and up to $6,000 at the upper end range when you're looking at the differences between 2019 and 2020.
Great, thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Michelle.
Thank you.
Good night.
Okay, any further comments from council or administration? Yeah, Rachel, thank you. Very good information tonight, very good rundown, and thanks for being willing to check on those questions that we had additionally.
Yeah, you're welcome. Those were great questions, so we can definitely touch base and we'll work on getting some revisions done.
Administration, I know it's been a long, hard road. Thank you for all your work. And with that, if there's no further comments, we'll go ahead and adjourn.
Adjourn at 7:50.